We're back. Welcome to the Moms for Social Justice podcast, where we talk about issues around equity and addressing them in your own community. In this episode, we talk about that horrible commencement speech given by that kicker dude, his name is not important, and the rise of the trad wife movement. We hope you enjoy this episode.
Welcome to the Moms for Social Justice podcast, where we work to empower parents to fight for social justice and change in their own backyard. I'm Taylor.
I'm Mari.
I'm Rosie. We're the Moms for Social Justice. We're three of them. There's more. There's more of us out there.
Yes, we're the leadership at the current moment.
You know, it's been a minute since we've sat down to do this. We took a break, basically the first part of 2024 because of some pretty serious life changes, and we're jumping back in and excited to do so, but you'll have to forgive us all if we're kind of just finding our way again and getting back into a flow. We like to start our podcast episodes by talking about what is on our heart at the moment. And I guess I will go ahead and start. And what is on my heart right now is really taking stock of this school year and the milestones that I'm watching my kids go through. I have my oldest just finished elementary school, and while in the scheme of childhood milestones, that one may seem pretty small for me with him being my oldest. That one is hitting me pretty hard. It's a beautiful thing, and I feel like that's a lot of what motherhood is. It's a beautiful thing to watch your kids grow and reach these places. And moments like this, when they've completed a chapter in their lives, I think really gives us an opportunity to pause and reflect on the little children they were, the kids that they are, and who they're going to be. And it puts into really clear focus just the furious pace of it all. So that's where I'm at. I'm all up in
We're
my
all
feet,
crying.
watching my babies grow right before my eyes. It's a beautiful and also a sweet heartache.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I was like thinking, my daughter is 9, and I'm like, we're halfway through this. That's really crazy. And I don't want to be halfway through this, but I, remember when they were so little, and it's like, when will they be able to like get dressed by themselves and like regulate their emotions?
Yeah.
When will we get there? And now we're not all the way there, but we're more there.
Do we ever get to a place where we can regulate our emotions?
No.
I was just thinking that as you said that, and I thought, I don't know that I'm there.
No, I screamed fuck at her the other day, and then I was like, that was a mistake. Mommy should have taken a step back and should have taken some deep breaths and some time for herself. I'm sorry that I yelled that.
Hey, that's what it is, though. It's knowing how to be open and honest with our kids and show them that, we're just people and we make mistakes. I'm constantly saying, oh, my bad, that was wrong. And then I think it allows them to feel like they can make mistakes, because I know Taylor's oldest son is the same age as my daughter, and I know perfection is something that they struggle with, and so I feel like it's almost a good thing when they get to see us make mistakes, because I really don't remember seeing my parent. I saw them make mistakes, but I don't really remember them talking to me about how it was a mistake and maybe we shouldn't do that and this is why, and I'm a human.
Oh yeah, no, I think Dr. Becky from Good Inside, she talks about the importance of repair, and that you're changing the narrative completely when you go back and apologize and repair, because otherwise the story just ends up I as as the kid, like I did this thing wrong, and then my parent yelled at me, and I'm the worst person in the world. The end.
Mm-hmm.
And then but then it changes to like my parent made a mistake too, and they fixed it, and they care about me
Right.
and care about our relationship enough to want to come back and make it better.
Yeah. It's something that I really appreciate about our generation of
Mm-hmm.
parenting. This whole notion of modeling apology. Like our children will learn to apologize because they've been apologized to.
Yep.
And that's really something, important that we can teach them. And it's not always easy. Um, but I think it's really, really important for us to take those opportunities to admit when we've messed up and teach them not only that it's important to apologize, but how one apologizes, right?
Right.
The apology
Sorry.
itself. Yeah, there's a difference between saying, I'm sorry that I did this, and I'm sorry if I hurt your feelings.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
The second is not an actual apology. And it's
Right.
Nope.
important to learn the difference.
It is.
Yeah, for
Right.
sure.
Wait, so Rosie, that's not what's on your heart, right?
Oh, no, sorry. I was just piggybacking off of. But
Yeah.
the last thing I wanted to say, I think it is important to like celebrate these milestones too.
Mm-hmm.
Both like for our kids and for ourselves. Because I don't think often enough we take time to reflect and to celebrate these milestones or our own accomplishments. And it's good to do that because
It is.
otherwise everything is a blur.
So true.
Yeah, I appreciate. So, Mari, what's on your heart?
Well, it's a great segue because talking about like emotionally regulating and all of these things, it's actually thanks to you, Taylor. You recommended a book to me, 14 Talks to Have Before the Age of 14. It's so good. I'm not through the whole thing yet, but just what I'm listening to it as an audiobook. Just what I've listened to so far has already, like, I'm finding ways that it's showing up in our lives. It's basically about being a tween and parenting a tween. And there's so many things that I'm noticing. For instance, one of them is that tweens and early teens tend to like cocoon, which is meaning they go into their room and kind of, you don't hear them or see them for a while. And I remember doing that as a kid, and my husband remembers doing that. But when it happens and, they take the last bite of food at the dinner table and then want to leave, it kind of feels icky. And I feel like we have a tendency to want to be like, oh, what's wrong with us that, you don't want to hang out with us. And that's not it at all. It's just that, they're still trying to figure themselves out, and that's their safe space is, their room or some place where they can go to kind of be by themselves and do their own thing. So I already found that happening. Another one of the things in the book was about like Botox face, keeping your face really neutral. Yeah. Because it tends like that age group can't recognize the subtleties in our facial expressions to know when something is, I'm mad, I'm concerned, I'm confused. Like, there's been research done on that. And I found that I made a face about something and didn't even notice that I made the face. And then my child was like, are you mad? And I was like, I'm like the furthest from mad I could be. And I was totally like, true. But I guess my face must have conveyed something that she read as mad. And I was like, oh, I should have used the Botox face.
Yeah, that one really resonated with me as well. That happens in our house almost on the daily. I think I just have like permafrown, or I'm constantly
resting bitch face. No,
that
you don't have.
brow. Yeah, because my oldest is constantly asking me if I'm mad or angry, and I'm not. I just with these teeny tiny little expressions that we make convey messages
just this little face right
that
here
are often not accurate.
Yes. That is so true. Yeah, and then a friend was talking to me about her middle schooler saying that, she was really upset because she felt like she didn't have a best friend, and like TV and movies and books show us that like you have a best friend in these times and they're like your confidant and almost like your mirror. And I feel like we're doing a disservice showing that. It's great narratively in stories, but it's not the reality of what's happening. And I think, kids feel like, what's wrong with me that I don't have a best friend? And that's something that usually comes later. But I feel like that's a great thing to talk to your kids about, because everyone, right, in that age group of being a tween is trying to figure out who they are. So they're like trying on personalities. And can you imagine if like the three of us as friends, like the next time you talk to me, I was like a different person? It would be really hard to keep up with it. And then imagine if you two were doing the same thing and changing your personalities and trying to figure out who you are. It would be a recipe for chaos, which is exactly what's happening. So,
I mean, I feel that
it's
even
really cool.
at the little bit younger age, my daughter being 9, I get stuff from her all the time.
You're getting
this
to that
happened
for
to,
sure.
oh, these, my two friends are not best friends anymore with each other. And then the next day, oh, now they're best friends with there's a lot of drama around friendship and stuff. But like also, I think as adults, it's easy for us to be dismissive of it. I really try to not be, and to understand that like this is her reality and this is important.
There's the book. It's by Michelle Icard.
Yeah, I'm not sure.
Yeah. Anyway, it's great,
and listening to it on audio as well.
Yeah, I'm gonna.
So
have
I
to
appreciate that, Taylor, and I'm one of those people that when I take time to read, I usually want to escape, into a fantasy world. But I thought, I really want to understand this time, and I want to understand it now before it passes. And I'm like, ooh, I should have done that. And I'm really enjoying it. It's also, I will say, like the author mentions like privilege, and she's definitely one of us, I would say, as far, which, kind of makes sense seeing as she's, a child psychologist. It's nice coming from that worldview, because I've had several people recommend books to me that are coming from more of a Christian worldview, which is not mine. So it's nice to find something that feels very neutral, but also she's just stating things as fact.
Rosie, I'd like to know what's on your heart today.
I have a group art show that is currently happening. It's going to be over by the time this podcast comes out, though. But it's at an art gallery here in Chattanooga called Clear Story Arts, and I helped organize it. And it's my first time ever having art like in a big art show like that, and organizing it. And so there's a lot of work involved and a lot that I learned. But it was really, really nice because you guys came and a bunch of other people came, and it was just like, I don't know. It was like vibrating. The room was like vibrating with good energy, uh, which is awesome to feel. So that's like another thing that I think once the show is over, just talking about like celebrations and stuff, because we're still, in the like last week of school, and my daughter has like dance recital, and I haven't really had time to sort of stop and catch my breath and like really celebrate that. So I think my parents are going to come into town for the closing. So I think when they're in town, we'll do like a little celebration. It'll be nice. But yeah, it's been nice to have like talk to people about my work and have them see it and just hear people's different reactions, or like, this reminds me of when I was a kid or whatever. So anyway, it's been nice.
Well, I know we told you in person, but we'll repeat it here that we could not be more proud of you and that beautiful show. That was all women and non-binary artists. Just seeing, a show dedicated specifically to women and non-binary individuals. I don't think I've ever been to a solely dedicated art show in that way. And the placards that you had throughout the show talking about the reality of being a female artist, how much less likelihood you are to be, your work is to be featured, how much you can expect to be paid, and how much less that is than a male artist. It was just really fascinating to me to see not only beautiful work, but how it was really detailed the difficulties that female artists and non-binary artists face in that world.
Oh, for sure. Yeah,
Yeah.
and I will say it is getting better, like, art, art auctions and stuff, they're reflective of all of art history. And so when we're talking about the past, that's largely male artists. But when we talk about contemporary living artists, there's a much higher percentage that are female, but it is still disproportionately male. And a lot of women artists too. There's so this art show was uh, brought on, I guess, by this female non-binary artist like network that I joined called the Thrive Together Network. And it's so interesting to me to hear everybody's stories about, not all people that are there are parents, but many that were into art making or were artists and then took a break for years because they were busy parenting their young, taking care of their young children, or that they were busy taking care of a parent or something like that and had to push that to the side. And you see that in so many sectors, not just art, but in the professional world as well. And it's like, well, why do women have all these barriers? Don't we consider them equal? And it's like, well, not really. We don't. We
No.
we have all these expectations of the things that they're supposed to take care of.
Caretaker first.
Caretaker first. And so it's really hard to then dedicate time to your career, your art practice, or whatever, if you're also juggling children and schedules and grandparents and all of these things. So
Well,
speaking
Rose,
of which,
that is a perfect segue into our topic today. I'm sure at this point there's probably not a corner of the country, probably even the planet at this point, that has not heard Harrison. What's his last name? I don't. It sounds so close to Buttlicker.
but he, I don't
I
know.
think it is Buttlicker for sure.
It is
Buttker, Bootker,
It is.
Butker.
Who is? I think he's a kicker. He's an
He's
NFL
the kicker.
of the City Chiefs.
His job is kick.
Kick. Oh, he
He's
gave a
just
commencement speech at a college graduation where, I mean, he said many offensive things, not the least of which where he called Pride Month celebrating a deadly sin, which is interesting to me, the parts of his speech that have gained traction when he said a lot of horrifying things, that being one of them. But he went on to say to a crowd full of graduating young women who had spent, thousands of hours and dollars working hard to complete their college education, that they have been fed diabolical lies about what it is to be a woman and what it is to be a successful woman, and that where they will find the highest personal satisfaction is in being wives and mothers. And it's easy to look at a speech like that in a vacuum and think that, oh, that guy's crazy. What a wild thing to say. But when you realize that that is really just the embodiment of an entire movement right now on the evangelical right, of really pushing this notion of what it is to be a woman and what it is to what our calling is in life, as it were, and to know how many women in that community are not only accepting those expectations and that ideology, but taking it and forming a brand around it. And that's what we're seeing on the evangelical right, is this notion of the trad wife. Are you guys hip to this?
Oh yeah, I love trad wifeism.
I thought about putting on, I mean, Rosie, you look nice, but I thought about putting on a nice little floral number and,
Curling your
ruffle.
hair, red
Yeah.
lipstick. You need to look what your husband is present there, Taylor. You need to look nice for him. Otherwise he might just like throw you out with the rest of the garbage. Make sure you get his slippers and his cigar.
It's hilarious. And it is funny, but it's also horrifying.
Mhm.
Oh, for sure. I think it's easy for us in, our secure relationships or people that are similar to us where they don't have this dynamic in this relationship to like look at it and laugh at it.
Right.
But the fact is that it affects so many women who can't necessarily talk about it or sort of, meekly like, oh, but like that's kind of our dynamic and like, is that okay? Or,
Mhm.
or these women are fully accepting and like, yes, this is my job. I mean, the point of it is really is it's taking away a woman's ability to have agency over her life when you're having men say, I'm the head of the household and this is the way that I envision and this is your role. And if
Mhm.
you don't accept that role, then, I can't be with you or whatever, which I would say, all right, bye. But for so many women, they've grown up in a world where that's what they're taught, that their job is supposed to be, that is supposed to be raising the children and cleaning the house and cooking the food and I guess providing for their family in that way. And so if you don't know any different, then it's hard for you, or you're taught that the other version is wrong. There's a lot of women who kind of like take the matrix pill or whatever and like, wake
Mhm.
up and they're like, wait a second, it's kind of abusive in here.
Well, and
Mhm. It
it's
feels a little abusive around here.
absolutely. Um, and I think really you touched on, Rosie, what is very dangerous about that ideology is it can often a lot of actual physical, emotional,
Mhm.
sometimes sexual abuse within marriages where a woman feels like she does not have agency and control of any of those things. What is interesting to me is to see a lot of evangelical women taking this trope of the traditional wife, turning it into their own personal brand and making money off of it.
What's their job now?
And
Like
Mhm.
literally.
exactly. It's it's hysterical to me that they do not see the irony that they've turned themselves into boss wives
Right.
by selling this notion of the traditional wife and mother.
Mhm.
And
Capitalism
let's
at its finest.
100%, and let's be clear, like you can be a stay-at-home wife and mom, and you can be a mom who works outside of the home. Our community is comprised of both. Our leadership is comprised of both. It's not that you cannot choose to be a stay-at-home wife and mother, and that's a perfectly valid choice. That work is valid. But this notion that because that is sometimes it's the choice that you made, sometimes that's just the reality of the situation because of costs of childcare
Mhm.
costs. The notion that you would not have an equal say in your household about decisions and about your own life, that's when you find women getting into really dangerous
Mhm.
situations.
Well, yeah, and it's like based on right this like upside down like pyramid or umbrella, right? Of like
Yeah.
God at the top, and then the husband, the
Husband.
man,
Yeah.
and then the woman, and then the children. And so, yeah, you're under like the thumb of the ideology of your religion and also maybe like your husband's personal ideology.
Right. And then it turns into an easy way to segue into a pyramid scheme because a lot of these
They're
folks
like, I'm
are
familiar with pyramids.
Hey, girl.
right. No, but a lot of these people are, doing MLMs because it feels, multi-level marketing, it feels more like it's your own thing and I'm not really
Feels like you
working
have some
outside the
agency.
home, right?
Yeah.
But then the companies are taking advantage of these folks, especially women. And I mean, a lot of them started in, Utah and that area with Mormon women. And it's just interesting that desire is usually there to, contribute monetarily sometimes or, have some agency and kind of have a brand. It's just sad that it's through this method that people often get taken advantage of.
Oh, 100%. And that's why I hate MLMs, because it's just taking advantage of people who are, either looking for some financial benefit or gains. They really need it for their family.
Mhm.
So many of these people are doing it because they're like desperate for money, or they're desperate for, yes, that like sense of agency and like contributing it to the house in a different way. Um, it,
Okay, but sidebar,
yeah.
let's confess. What is your favorite MLM purchase?
Well, I was going to say the interesting thing.
Oh, damn it.
Oh, yeah. But that's what I was going to say too, is that the MLM kind of preys on the friends and the people, especially the women around
Yes.
the person participating.
It's about your personal network.
And you feel like you need to
Support
I want to
this
help my
person.
friend. I want to support them. And so you end up, I mean, I have so many things in my house because, out of guilt, or I mean, some of the stuff is actually really great. I definitely went through my essential oil phase. It's harmful, but it's just like capitalism. It's harmful and we see how it hurts people, but yet we feel like we do have to participate.
No, we still participate in it.
Yeah.
I only had one MLM purchase and I did not feel good about it. And I was also miscarrying like that day. My neighbor had invited me to the thing, and it was like this
Right.
guilt of
Oh.
that she was having this, that she had invited me to like see these and she was very excited about it. And again, yeah, it was like one of those things where she's a was raised in a very Christian household, and also had like, she had a lot of mental health struggles herself. And so yeah, I would think it was like Airbon or something, like skincare stuff.
Yeah.
And so I bought it. It didn't do anything for my skin, first of all. And it was really expensive. And yeah, it would just all of it felt icky. None of it
Whole
felt good.
thing feels icky.
Oh,
Yep.
Yeah.
Rosie, that story hurts. That hurts. I
That
saw
does.
a meme. It was, I don't know, the other day that said something to the effect of, like a woman can experience uh, infertility, pregnancy, miscarriage, PCOS, all these different things all in the same year and still show up to life. And your story,
Yes.
like showing up to your
Yep.
friend's MLM party while you were miscarrying, is just a heart-wrenching embodiment of that we experience all of these things and we still have to show up to life, cook the meals, take the kids to school, all things. And I think that's why I personally find this trad wife notion so just disturbing. I am a stay at home wife and mother right now. That is something that I'm very appreciative of the privilege that I have to do that. And I struggle a lot with personal self worth and personal identity, because a lot of times I do just feel like a chauffeur and a chef, and it's difficult sometimes to find my identity outside of that reality. So I really personally find it offensive, the notion that because that is the choice that our family has made, that somehow makes me less deserving of a voice and an opinion and the way that our family makes decisions.
Oh yeah, because it slots you into like you're in the same bucket now. Um, of all of that, which is, yeah, it's frustrating when obviously like your family sees all of the value that you contribute, and like going through like our fair play workshop, and reading that book was helpful to me, because I had a period for a few years where I was, the stay at home parent as well. I was maybe working like little freelance jobs on the side, but primarily like taking care of my kids, and then transitioning back to, work, stay at home mom, then back to work. And I gotta say, the stay at home parent part is so much harder. It's so much more work.
100%.
Yeah, and so I was like, when we put our son in preschool, because I was like, I think I could work like normal ish daylight hours and not have to work at night, and then also take care of the kids during the day. I think that would be great. It was like such relief for me to do that. But like I see you, Taylor, and that you really, and I mean, obviously, like, it's hard, but also that you, like, really enjoy being able to do that for your family and your children, and that's, like, the difference versus someone who is stuck or, they, like, there must be so many people that are both accepting of that role and also sort of have this, like, nagging, underlying, icky feeling of, like, I really don't want to, like, be doing this all of the time.
Yeah, well, I mean, it's just so the expectations around that and this notion of, well, what happens one day when you decide I want to rejoin the workforce? Like for me personally, I know that when my daughter goes to school full time, that I'm going to be rejoining the workforce with a really nasty resume gap, and that's a whole other. It's interesting to me to think that a lot of these women who've painted this trad, wife picture for themselves and for their children and their husbands, if one day they wake up and decide that's not what they want anymore, will they find themselves in a difficult situation of trying to step outside that picture that they have presented the world and presented to their families? If you teach your husband and you teach your children a way to look at you and a way to treat you, stepping outside of that, I think, is a little more difficult than they might realize.
Yes. And
Yep.
I also think that because we're privileged and also we live like in a first world country, I think we are maybe also dismissive of like the ramifications of that on people that are in, less economically advantaged countries where there is more of an expectation of girls not going to school, girls becoming wives and mothers, being married at a very young age. I mean, I was reading something about this trad wife movement and like how how negative it is for all women across the globe because you're like kind of normalizing this, and where men in other countries can see, white men doing this and thinking like, okay, well, they're, rich and powerful, whatever, and that's what and so I need to follow that path also with my family, with my wife, and be the head of the household, and she's going to do this and take on this role. But because there's a lack of opportunity, because there's a lack of money, that these women are just sort of stuck in this corner where they don't have the ability to exit that very easily.
Yeah, and I'm glad you brought that up, Rosie, because it's not difficult to imagine that with this trad wife movement, it follows in the same communities of like the anti-vax movement, deeply rooted in white Christian nationalism, which is a really nice word for white supremacy. It has the facade of being something very innocuous. And, what's wrong with a lovely woman who wants to stay at home and raise her children and cook dinner for her husband every night? The surface, there's nothing wrong with that if that's what someone chooses to do. But when take into consideration the undercurrents of anti-science and, really ugly financial, I don't even know
Barriers and
how the
difficulties, yeah.
barriers, that it would that it puts women into to get outside of a situation if they choose to do that. And then also just deep rooted, ugly white supremacy that runs in this ideology is just it's just disturbing. And I think that's where it moves beyond something that we can kind of poke fun at, and you realize that it's really truly insidious.
Right.
Oh yeah, well, and I think about the Harrison Butker dude, whatever his name is. Like, let's please, history books, remove his name. The water that he's drinking, that he's swimming in, for him to feel okay to go to this commencement speech and say all of the things that he said. I mean, so then you envision like the community that's behind him that is also like, yes, yeah, you're right. This is how it should be. Yeah, like gay people are bad. They are wrong. We shouldn't celebrate them. Women should, be limited to this role. So yeah, it's like not just him, right? Like there's a whole group of people that were like supporting him in doing this.
Well,
Telling
yeah.
him yes.
Well,
Yeah.
the people that were saying, what was wrong with the speech, he just kept talking about how amazing his wife was and tearing up, talking about what the amazing wife and mother she was. And of course, the response to that, well, then if she's so amazing, why wasn't she asked to give the commencement speech? Or why did you keep referring to her as your wife and not her name? It's just this, yes, this overarching notion that women, when they are put in that place, like, lose identity and agency. They are simply wife and mother. And we can talk all day long about how amazing and how hard that work is. But when you
Right.
stop seeing those people as individuals and you start seeing them as, workhorses and
A role to fill.
mothers,
Yes.
and wombs,
Right.
and they lose identity.
Humanity.
They lose humanity.
Yeah, and I feel like we saw in our organization, we saw the direct kind of pipeline from traditional trad rural wives and mothers to conspiracy theorists. We had an instance as an organization dealing with the Save the Children movement, which I think it's interesting that you don't really hear much about it right now.
They were
So
all
weird.
saved, Mari.
They were all saved.
Check.
Just ask anyone who's actually working in trafficking and they'll tell you for sure it's over. We don't have a job anymore. We had to do some real digging on that end to see, because we had an instance where, let's see, I would say it was maybe 2 years ago, a banner was put up that said "Save the Children," and someone in our community group, which we thought was private and kind of a safe space, said, that they wanted to tear them down, and they were kind of planning to tear down those banners. And that got shared, and that person was doxxed, and instead of thinking, well, maybe they disagree with how we're going about this, they were like, well, they must be pedophiles or sex traffickers.
Anti-children.
Right, obviously. But the reason I bring this up is because I was one of the people going through our group of, at that time, I think 600 to 800 members, and kind of trying to see like who maybe was screenshotting some of the content in our group and sharing it with people outside of it. And it was, it was really sad to see that it was mostly white, rural women with several children who really felt like they were doing the right thing. I think some of them really did, but it's those people at the top that were kind of recruiting them into this movement that had the nefarious plans, and they had a strategy and they were activating these people. So I feel like that's another kind of pipeline. It's, the MLM pipeline. And then, there's also the conspiracy theory pipeline, kind of a cult mentality, which is really dangerous. And it's like you said, Taylor, it's easy to kind of see this and chuckle and think, oh, like some of these people, they don't probably even believe this. They're just using this for their, personal brand. But there are a lot of people that do believe it and think it's the right way and have been told that it's the right way and the only way, and that anyone doing anything else is doing it the wrong way. And when you're coming at it from a religious perspective, you're not just doing it the wrong way, you're like working for the devil.
Doing it the evil way.
Right, exactly. You're evil.
I think that's a really good point, Maury. And, that's how it ties back to just as an organization, we kind of made a joke about kind of what we were dealing with. But yeah, if you have a group of women, us, who do not subscribe to that, ideology of what motherhood is, of what womanhood is, of what partnership is, it's not just looked at as a difference in ideology. It's not just a difference of opinion. It's considered evil. And that has...
We're witches.
yes, that's been taken to an absurd place in our own community.
Repeatedly.
Yeah.
Repeatedly. I'm like,
Yes.
how many
Right.
okay, for anybody who doesn't know, there's you guys did a photo shoot for Halloween where you dressed up
For
as
Halloween.
witches
Yep.
with some other MSJ folks.
Yeah.
And the right wing side of our community got those photos and just like they like to reshare it for fun, like every
year.
6 months, I would say.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And point to that as how we're actually witches. We actually worship the devil.
Yeah.
And we were communists. Also.
Sacrifice
And
babies.
we're communists. For some reason, those
Right.
things coincide. I was pregnant at the time, big pregnant, that we were
Mhm.
taking these photos. And to see the commenters come in and say that I was pregnant for the purpose of child sacrifice, like it's so I'm flabbergasted when I see
Mhm.
things like that, especially when you see that my social media is awash with adorable pictures of my beautiful toddler and my other kids. It's hilarious to me that they have fabricated this reality of mothers and parents who don't fit this mold that they've created.
Mhm.
And then it's just they've taken it to the extreme. It's not just that we're parents who have a different set of beliefs and a
Right.
different ideology. It's that we are evil witches.
Yes.
And
A literal witch hunt.
easy to laugh at that, but again, realizing where it's coming from, it's hard not to be just deeply disturbed by a lot
Right.
of those,
Yeah, it's one thing for people to laugh and say, "Don't they look stupid?" It's another for them to, some of the comments on those posts were unhinged. Really
Like most of
long
them.
diatribes. Yes, most of them.
Which it's like
I could see people saying like, "Why did they do that? That seems like a waste of time." Like, okay, sure, you don't have to do it. That's fine. It was meaningful to us, and it was fun, and we felt connected to each other, and we were in the forest. We don't even have to defend it, but
and let's be real here. Like, yeah, we're a bunch of we're moms who are old theater nerds. Like, you caught us being nerdy.
yeah,
during Halloween.
For
right.
Halloween.
Our favorite holiday because of Satan.
Yeah.
Not
Anyway,
because we like dressing
talk
up, but
about
it does tie in. It does.
Well, and two, I think so many of those commenters were men, and I think about like there was an article I think in the New York Times about how the trad wife movement is. Did we lose Taylor? Okay, we have lost Taylor, unfortunately, to the internet electric gods.
Sounded really
The devil
dismal.
was mad. Or no, wait, God was mad. The devil is good.
Right.
God was mad at our
Cut her
conversation
power.
and cut her power. But I think we were almost like wrapping up anyway. I think the last point that I wanted to make was just how the trad wife movement is really for men, not for women, and that men have really latched onto it because they probably feel that their white male power is like eroding in certain places, and this is a way for them to regain some of that power, and like bring it into their own homes, which I've read several tales of, like on the 2X subreddit about a man, husband coming home and sort of, hey, I think when we have kids, you should stay home, and sort of like springing it on their spouse, which is really interesting. So I think it's easy to say like, oh, it's only affecting the evangelical folks, but it's really not. And it can seep into many facets of society, unfortunately. So we need to combat it. We need to beat it down with our womanly muscles.
And our witchy powers.
Oh, our witch powers with magic.
Yeah.
We're going to get rid of it with magic.
But I do think talking about it in, saying that, yes, it can be kind of silly and it seems harmless, but the fact that it's not, and, like you said, it's a tool of the patriarchy, it's a tool of white supremacy. So education and awareness is a huge part of dismantling both of those systems. That's kind of why we wanted to discuss it today, because it might be one of those things that listeners see in their periphery. Honestly, I hadn't given it much thought. I knew that it was happening, but when you all suggested this as a topic, I was like, what are we going to talk about? But as we've been talking and as I was thinking about it, I was like, oh, this is just a symptom of something much bigger that's happening that is really dangerous and harmful to so many people. And, so I think just being aware and discussing, and when you see that content, make a note in your head that this is, basically a type of propaganda.
When you go to the farmer's market, laugh about it loudly with your friends about how ridiculous it is. And maybe someone who is in that situation will overhear. Right. No, I think you're right. It is bringing awareness to it and just letting other people know that this model of relationship is not okay and not cool, that you should, if you want to be a stay-at-home parent, cool, but that should be for you to decide, not for your spouse to decide for you.
Right.
Is important.
Or your church community or your church community. Whatever it is.
Yes, exactly.
Right? Being true to yourself is very important, and happy and healthy, both mentally and physically. Mothers make much better mothers than women who feel trapped and under the thumb of someone. And, it will affect their children and the future of our world.
Someone's
so really
we're
saving
to this.
The world by having this conversation.
And be like, but she screamed fuck at her child, so look at her, she has a job.
Right.
It's
you work
because
outside of the home while you work in the home. I know. It's because of that. Not because we're fallible humans that make mistakes.
Well, Mari, do you think we're going to do this regularly again? Is that the plan?
I sure hope so. I thoroughly enjoy talking to you all. And
we're going to record again in 2 weeks.
Other episodes.
Oh, we have so many ideas.
We are.
Yeah, no, I think you can
and the
expect
summer is upon us, so might be easier.
Might be easier, might be harder.
We don't know.
Anyway, expect more episodes, though, coming in the future on a semi-regularly.
Yeah, as always, follow us on all the things if you can. Give us some grace if we do take another little hiatus, but we're not going to. But, life. And
when you're in the
summer
organization activism world, it is important to refill your cup, if you will, and step back when you need to. All right, signing off. I hope you all have a blessed day. If you're listening.
Hashtag blessed.
Hashtag blessed. Bye.
Bye.
We thought this discussion was really interesting. It's important to continually bring awareness to the wrongness of this trad wife viewpoint, the idea that women exist to only serve their husbands, birth babies, and care for their homes. And I think if this doesn't touch you personally, it's really easy to be dismissive of it, but it truly can seep into many aspects of society. So we need to continually combat it. Moms for Social Justice is a 501c4. You can follow us on all of the social media channels except for the yucky one. And I hope you have a great day.